So I had a bit of a breakthrough yesterday. Nothing to do with COVID or social justice or anything like that. This is strictly tangential to all of that. What was concept that's been kind of in my mind, prevalent, and it's out there. There's a theory. Carl Jung had a theory about the collective unconsciousness, and what that is. Like, if you look at something like Twitter, that's kind of like the collective consciousness. That's what everybody's looking at right now. Hashtags, trending stuff. You can see what's going on, what everybody's looking at right now. So the collective unconsciousness would be things that aren't necessarily happening right this second. And what he, I don't want to say attributed to, but the category that he put that into was like instincts, things that you haven't necessarily encountered yourself, but you would know how to deal with things in a certain situation. And that makes just a ton of sense from a standpoint of how human beings have been able to evolve as much as they have, fill up the world as much as they have, cover the whole planet basically, having the whole world. There's no area that we haven't really been. So, and I think that speaks to our abilities in that collective unconsciousness to be able to deal with things that maybe we haven't necessarily encountered, but somebody else has been able to like dump that information into this giant information repository. It's kind of crazy to think about, right? Like, if you think of it as you're an individual computer on a network, now you're tied into maybe every other person on the planet. And I know it's kind of fanciful, thinking of like movies like Star Wars, like The Force or Avatar, where they were able to communicate with the planet and things of that nature. But even those things, I mean, it kind of does make sense, and the underpinnings of religion kind of fit in that category as well, the interconnectedness of people. And just if you believe that's out there, if you think that's out there, and for me, what kind of, I don't want to say brought this on, but what kind of makes me wonder about things, right? It's like a Tuesday afternoon, and you pull into the gas station, and you've got to sit there and wait. And let's say there's 6 pumps, right? And all of a sudden you're waiting for somebody to finish so that you can get gas. So you wait, then you pull into the pump, you pump your gas, you get done, you grab the receipt, and you look around and there's nobody else. Every other pump now is empty. And it's like, why did everybody show up right at the same time to get gas, right when I showed up? Because you're part of it. You can't excuse yourself from everything, from everybody. Even if you were a complete and total isolationist, you wouldn't be able to fully isolate yourself from this. And that's kind of an intriguing thought, intriguing idea to me. Now, knowing that it's there, the other things that kind of intrigue me are brainwave patterns. I believe there's 5 different brainwaves. You have your delta brainwave, which is basically nothing. That's your deepest sleep. That's when your body kind of starts regenerating itself, working on itself. That's where you're not doing anything. Then you have a theta state. Well, that would be like where your REM sleep is, where the brain is kind of working, but you're not conscious. Then you have your alpha brainwaves, where you're doing things. This is like and it's just so routine, where you're able to just do it like you're in the shower. You're just going through the motions. You're doing it. You're not really thinking about it, but you're awake. You're conscious. the next one then is beta waves. So I think that's where people spend a lot of their conscious time. You know, I have tasks to do. I need to go here. I need to pick this up. You know, things you have to think about, but maybe not like in-depthly think about. And then beyond those are gamma waves, which are, you know, really tight, really, really fast waves of like intense focus. And I think it's during this period. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to tie this all together and say there's three pieces to this. Is that the gamma waves would allow you to access the collective unconsciousness in a conscious state. So now you can have access to those things, and it's not a conscious thinking about, oh, I need to do this, I need to move my arm here. It now becomes instinctual. It now becomes a reaction. And I think of this, the practical example of this is when somebody says that they're in the zone, right? So in sports, you know, especially like basketball, where you just can't miss a shot, everything is just falling in. But it can apply to other things too. You know, music, every note's just the right pitch, the right length. You know, you're moving on, you're just hitting everything. Test taking. You know, I've gotten tests back before where, you know, and I call it going into test taking mode. Like, I'm a good test taker. And I don't know that it's necessarily that I'm a good test taker, but I may be able to focus, you know, so much on that task at hand that I'm able to do things instinctually without necessarily the deepest knowledge of the things. Or I'm able to formulate things on a different level. And to me, it makes a ton of sense, because, you know, if you're able to focus that intently at that level, you're accessing something else. So then it calls into question, is there intelligence? You know, what's an individual's intelligence? Because you're basing it off of some type of test. And maybe they've had the information, maybe, you know, we call it cognitive thinking. Maybe it's not cognitive thinking at all. Maybe it's just their ability to tap into this reservoir of information that is completely and totally available to everybody. But what you're measuring is their ability to tap into it. So they can use, you know, geniuses would be able to use everything in that, you know, repository of information. And, you know, people with high level intelligence could get some of it, you know, when they really focused and were really intent on one thing. And then you would have other people that just, you know, kind of float along. But even them, you know, they're still able to contribute to it because, you know, in that fight or flight moment, you know, they would be able to access it. You know, that's when the things are going to tick up. I think you could test this a couple different ways. One, I would be really, really interested to see what high-level video game players do. You know, even mobile games, video games, you know, whatever it is. If you could just measure their brain waves when they're locked in and playing a game at a high level. Because what's the rule of mastery? 10,000 hours to master something. But you look at the people who are really, really good at it. They've been good at it for a long time. You know, and it hasn't taken 10,000 hours for them to get great at it. So, are they really just, you know, great at that one particular thing? Or are they great at being able to tap into this, you know, real information superhighway, if you want to think of it that way? So I think that would be an interesting test to test gamers. So I don't think you could test an athlete or somebody doing something physical, because it would be too encumbering for them to do. Maybe somebody who's playing chess, you could test them. Beyond that, maybe test taking, somebody who professed to be a good test taker. Yeah, but if you can prepare for a test, that may make a difference as well, because you can come in kind of in that mental state, knowing what you need to do. I don't know. I think it's interesting. So you got 3 layers. You've got the collective unconsciousness, which is Carl Jung's theory. He was an early 1900s psychologist, German. And then you've got the brain waves, the different brain waves to potentially access that information. Maybe it's delta. I don't know. Maybe you just have to go blank to be able to access it. But I think if you focus intently on a task at hand, instinctually things will start happening that are beyond your control, that make things go faster, speed things up. You get more out of an experience. So I think focusing is critically important. And then the third piece is that zone mentality, I guess, to kind of control your brainwave state. I guess maybe that's the focus. The path. Maybe you focus, get your brain to the gamma bandwidth, and then you're able to access most of your memory. And the other thing was, if you think of your mind, right, your conscious mind, your mind in total as an iceberg, right? Your conscious mind is the piece of the iceberg that's out of the water. Your subconscious mind is the part that floats between the water and the surface. It's sometimes submerged, sometimes it's out. It's kind of back and forth. And then you have the entire area of the iceberg that's below the water, that's called your unconsciousness. And I kind of would term that as everything that's going on, where your brain's telling your heart to beat, keeping track of, breathing, controlling all the muscle contractions in your body. That unconscious, things that happen at a certain level. You want to do something, and then all these other things are happening under the surface to make that happen that you aren't necessarily in control of. I want to make a fist, but I'm not telling the individual muscles to tighten, or how the skeleton should align. I'm not doing that. That's something that happens without me thinking about it. And then you have the collective unconsciousness, is the water that the iceberg floats in. So you have access to all that potential information, instincts. Wow, somebody just passed me. Good job. You got an extra 20 feet to you. But I'm going to end this today. And I just want to get those thoughts down. I just wanted to, kind of get what I was thinking about, because I was thinking about it yesterday. I just want to get those thoughts down. I don't care who develops it. I don't care who runs with it. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I know I'm going to try to work on some of this stuff and see if it makes sense or not. But it's just an idea. It's just a postulate. It's not a theory. It's not a proven scientific fact. It's just an idea. So, just throwing it out there. All right. Be careful. Stay COVID free.